A legal answer, it depends
On what?
on the nature and circumstances of the case before us.
So there are certain circumstances that would cause you to recommend to the administration that it defy a lower court order.
Well, Senator, for example, in some circumstances, in order for a court order to be challenged, an official must be held in contempt. And so, yes, it is possible that we could get there. However, I would be remiss were we to go down the path of talking about hypotheticals because, as I say, I can never imagine a situation in which I would be asked to give that advice.
Chairman, thank you for your generosity with my time. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I also don't want to debate how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. I think you understand where a lot of these questions are coming from. Mr. Geiser, would you ever advise a client to ignore a federal district court opinion?
Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy. I would advise it.
Thank me. You can thank me by answering it.
I would advise a client on how best to comply with all lawful court orders.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, sir.
You would advise a client not to follow a federal district court opinion?
I would advise a client to follow court orders.
Would you ever advise a client not to follow a federal court of appeals decision?
I had the privilege of clerking on 2 federal courts of appeals.
Is that a yes or no?
Yes. I would advise them to follow the orders of courts of appeals.
How about Supreme Court opinion?
Yes, Senator, I would advise them to follow the Supreme Court's orders, as President Trump has been very clear that those orders are to be followed.
Mr. Woodward, let me ask you the same question. Would you ever advise a client not to follow a district court opinion?
No, Senator.
Would you ever advise a client not to abide by an opinion of the Federal Court of Appeals?
No, Senator. Again, it's difficult to answer in the hypothetical, but...
Would you ever advise a client not to follow an opinion by the United States Supreme Court?
No, Senator. As the President has been clear, he will follow all orders of the United States Supreme Court.
Tell me what I would need to do under the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, if I want to change a current rule.
Well, Senator, as a senator, you would pass a law that would change the...
No. I don't want to play games here, Counsel. What would one have to do? What would the head of an agency have to do to overturn a current rule or regulation?
Well, Senator, I apologize. I know that there are many ways to do that, and I don't want to play games either. I want to answer the question.
That's fair.
There are many ways in which an agency can overturn a rule.
Well, you have to give notice, right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
Yeah. And you have to invite input, right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
Okay. And sometimes you have to hold a hearing, right?
Sometimes you do, Senator.
Yeah. Are there any exceptions to that under the Administrative Procedures Act?
Under the Administrative Procedures Act, I'm not aware of any exceptions, but there are exceptions under the law.
Okay. Are you familiar with the good cause exception to the Administrative Procedures Act?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with that exception.
Okay. Do you know what it says?
No, Senator, I do not.
I understand. Here's what I'm driving at. Are you familiar with the Supreme Court's case called Loper-Bright?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with the Supreme Court's decision in Loper-Bright.
The overturned Chevron doctrine, right?
The Chevron deference doctrine, yes, Senator.
Okay. If there is a rule promulgated by a prior administration or even by a current administration that is in clear violation of the United States Supreme Court's pronouncement under Loper-Bright, ruling unconstitutional the Chevron doctrine. Would it be possible? Strike that. Would it be prudent for the Justice Department to exercise authority under the good cause exception to the APA in the public interest and forego the rule, the notice and comment?
So, Senator, thank you. I think I now understand your question. And that is I was alluding to the non-APA process. I mean, if a rule has been promulgated that is plainly unconstitutional, it absolutely would be appropriate for the Department of Justice to look at that rule and make a determination.
My point is, you don't have to ignore the APA to do that, do you?
I would say it depends, but I take your point.
I mean, the APA provides an exception.
Yes, Senator.
It's section 553. It's right there, big as Dallas. Am I done?
Yeah.
I thought that was maybe a mouse or something.
Senator Cool.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin.